Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am he, your griot, to tell you a story. Stop thinking, stop talking, and breathe. Let the electrons of love's co creation penetrate you. Out here in the big green, it's pretty cold, and I'm about to step off the cliff and step on the wire and go on the bop. And the one person that I met that really did that was truly amazing, was Philippe Petit, a guy who walked across between the top of the two World Trade Towers, right? He and his minions got a cable across and he walked across, right? And he was up there for hours, right? He was in the middle, just sitting, lying, you know, just relaxing, kicking back. And, once he got up there and started doing, people saw him up there. And then the cops went up there and they were like freaking out. They didn't know what to do, right? Because he was in the middle of the two, right? Anyway, he got up and he was lying down, right? And so, he got up and he walked that thing and they grabbed him and took him down. And the TV guys were waiting for him. And he became world famous. And, nothing bad happened. It seemed to be a great thing for the World Trade Center. And so they let him go. And he became the toast of the town. And I was at a, uh, a dinner party of some whoop-de-doo folk. Had a nice, rich folk. I had rehabbed this building for them. It was like they didn't share. They didn't have a condo. They had a whole building, like uptown near on Fifth Avenue, one of those nice, really rich people's houses. Right. So anyway, we redid that, and I was an artist. I was an interesting guy. I became their friend doing that job, and they had this party. Philippe Petit was there, and they had servants, and they serving the cocktails and the little weenies and all that. And we had dinner, and then we went back and sat. And what was truly interesting was that this guy did not really talk, right? And he was just listening. And then at a certain point, they had cleaned the dining room, and the servants had this thing that they had washed the dishes, and they were like taking them back because they're really expensive. They put them in this glass chest that showed off these fancy plates that we just ate dinner on. Anyway, so he's washes it and he goes over there and he tells takes the trolley and takes it in the middle of the living room and he starts juggling these plates. About 12 dinner plates and then 12. He had about 20, 30, 40. I don't know how many plates he had flying through the air. And he was like, doo, 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 doo. And the woman, was like, they were like, don't. And he just kind of stepped back. I don't know how much that, but she was really upset. I mean, this it was a fancy, and they spent millions on redoing this place, and those dishes must have been somewhat expensive. And he just says, "I'm Philippe Petit," and turned around and walked out. So he spent about 2.5 hours there, and everyone was like yammering away. He just didn't say really anything, right? And so I had nothing to do with any of those people. So I just kind of, when he walked out, I kind of walked out behind him, and I said, "That was pretty amazing." And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, that there was millions of dollars worth of swell of people there. I mean, those were rich people, and you didn't care. I said, "I'm Philippe Petit," and he walked away. And I'd been studying with my Eastern master, and so I kind of doubled down on. I talked to him about that, and he was telling me about the only way that that guy could have done what he did was that he was in total control of his essence and was in co-creation with love through his spirit. He said, only way he could do that. And he said, how long did you have all those plates up in the air? And I said, I mean, a good long time. I didn't have a watch or anything, but more than a few, 10 minutes maybe, somewhere between 3 and 10 minutes, because it was like, he said he was suspending time. That's how he got all those plates up in the air. And when the woman got really upset, it was affecting his concentration. I mean, she wasn't really saying anything. She was, and he just basically had them all up in the air, and he just turned away from them. They all come crashing down. And that is, well, there's Yo-Yo. Yep. Long live the Most Highest. Loves co-creation. Yo-Yo. So the bottom line of all of this is stop talking. Now here I am, your griot. I'm always talking. But that's one reason why I live out in the woods, because there's no one to talk to. I want to talk to anybody. It should be interesting to be on the high wire for the next 3 months. Just, traveling from here to there. And I will go on air and bring it to you. So, Dr. Eggplant, what's shaking? Where are you? What universe are you in? I don't know if the audience knows Dr. Eggplant, but he is, what most people would call a troll. But I don't think he is. I don't view him as a troll. I view him as Dr. Eggplant, my good friend Yo-Yo. So, and I hope Dr. Eggplant, he is my good friend Yo-Yo, that he's doing better, because the last time I talked to Yo-Yo, he wasn't doing too good. And Milky Way Galaxy. Okay. So the Voyagers are out there heading towards, if he is in the Milky Way, we have 2 spacecraft that were launched in the mid-70s, and they used our solar system, and the major 4 large planets were aligned. And the last time they had aligned like that was when Thomas Jefferson was president. So it was pretty amazing. They built and launched those things like on a giddy up mode. Once they figured out what they were going to do, and because just to get out to the outside planets in our solar systems, the ones out there, if they hadn't used those big planets as slingshots, would have taken almost 40 years. But by using the major large planets as slingshots, they got there in 12. And then they used the exterior planets again as slingshots. So they were really going fast. They were doing about 60,000 miles a second. I mean, they were really flying when they left our solar system, right? And about 18 years after the launch, they left the solar system, and they were at the outer rim. It kept going, and so they are like they're out in space where it's so cold, there is no sun, right? Darker than dark, and we're still getting telemetry from them. Which is pretty. Their radio transmitter is as powerful as a refrigerator light bulb. You know, so I mean, it's a pretty amazing feat the JPL kids put together there, and that's what humans can do. We can gather together, work together, and make amazing um, situations. You know, and conversely, we can kid ourselves and you know convince other people, and we can do really stupid shit. Right? War is the most stupid shit thing that humans do. Right? There is, only a small group of people get any profit out of it. The contractors of war make money at it. Political folk make money at it, but other than that, not so much. Let's see. Uh, Partner of the 10K. So, when I launch onto the wire, I am going to do it in a way that will be the most fluid, free, fun, and I'm doing it for you, the cadre, to experience something outside of your present day, tomorrow after tomorrow after tomorrow. The thing that Shakespeare talked about in Hamlet, why Hamlet was so a morose guy. I mean, first of all, he starts a war by intelligence from a ghost. No, it's like, so, and then he kills everyone he loves and destroys the country he loves, and he wins, but there's nobody around, right? And his buddy is bouncing around like a monkey. Oh, we won, we won. Oh, Hamlet, why are you so morose? You're more morose than you usually are. What's the problem? And Hamlet replies, "It's the tomorrow." What about tomorrow? It's the tomorrow and the tomorrow and the tomorrow. And Johnny Boy goes on about, going to hell for eternity, blah, blah, blah. Right? Well, we got it going in the tomorrow and the tomorrow and the tomorrow. How you step into your forward evolution is to, in every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. So it's up to us to, be the decider, right? And so here we are, 13 minutes and 13 seconds. And I want to thank everyone for sending me gifts through PayPal to the Due to Wake 42 at Gmail. Now I'm going to be on the bop, and so it's living out here in the woods. I don't spend any money. I just kind of read, write, think, talk to think, smile at the squirrels. They smile back. The bunny likes to hang out next to me in the sun, and so it's up to us to, in every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger, and not start wars. Not destroy the garden paradise that we live on. So I just wanted to reach out to you, and again, thank you for caring and sharing, giving me gifts. I could really use some more gifts, right? So it'd be nice if somebody sent something along the PayPal path to the Due to Wake 42 at Gmail. And you could, get a hold of me at the Due to Wake 42 at Gmail email, and we can, have discussions. So, anyway, so start the car up and get a little warm.
And that it takes place against a backdrop of completely unacceptable discrimination against LGBT people, a lack of protections for women's rights. Qatar has a male guardianship system, and of course, a lack of press freedom to investigate migrant labor abuses. You mentioned at the outset that FIFA has committed to a legacy fund. There's no indication right now that that legacy fund will actually go to the to the families of thousands of migrant workers who lost their lives to deliver this World Cup.
6,000.
So talk about what you understand, how the system works. From 2010 to 20, something like 6,500 workers died in Qatar, not necessarily all of them building stadiums, but many. Explain what the illegal loans and debt bondage system for workers in Qatar is, and why Qatar is saying they've changed their system.
Well, Qatar has passed some modest labor law improvements, but they have not gotten rid of the kafala system. The kafala system was in place in 2010 when FIFA awarded the World Cup to Qatar, and it has continued through to today. What this is it's a system of modern day slavery. It has features like, in the case of many workers, they had to take out loans to work in Qatar. So these could be loans from anywhere from $700 to $4,000 US, but that would be a crushing loan that you would have to work, in some cases, for years to repay. Some of the saddest cases that Human Rights Watch has seen are families where the main breadwinner, a young man, went to Qatar, took out a loan to work there, worked in debt bondage, was cheated of wages, did not receive the wages he was promised, and then his body returned home to his family in a coffin. So these cases, these are utterly preventable labor rights abuses. And one other major point, the reason this has happened is in 2010 and still today, there are no trade unions. Trade unions for migrant workers are illegal. And also there's no striking. So it's illegal to strike. So even if you are working in deadly conditions, if you think you're going to have a heart attack or you're experiencing heat stress from working in more than 120 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius, even if you're working in dangerous and even deadly conditions, there's no ability, if you're a migrant worker in Qatar, to strike for your basic human rights.
The government of Qatar has refused to do autopsies on the workers who die as they're working.
Yeah, this is, it's difficult to understand how there could be thousands of deaths and how they couldn't be well documented. But when you understand the system of labor exploitation that was present in Qatar, it's actually very easy to understand. So there's a workforce at any given time of 2 million migrant laborers, and then the population is about 250 or 300,000. So that means 90 to 95% of the workforce are migrant laborers, and they're coming from some of the world's poorest countries. India, Nepal, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Ghana, Kenya. And these are migrant workers who are leaving home for years at a time to make a better future for their children. But once they arrive there, they find that they're in control of the sponsoring company, which is exploiting them. And there's really, many of the workers have described to us, or as you saw on the video, they're working in deadly conditions, but there's no way to protest and there's no way out.
The FIFA president, we just played, Gianni Infantino, opened the Saturday news conference with a stunning hour-long monologue. He said Qatar's offering migrants the opportunity to provide for their families, whereas Europe has closed its borders. If you could comment on this, and also why this oil-rich nation cannot afford to pay a living wage to its workers.
So the last question first. the system that was in place, so there was a absolute concentration, unprecedented concentration of construction to build this World Cup that started in 2010. Those Qatari companies, and remember, migrant workers had no basic human rights. Those Qatari companies were competing against each other for the lowest cost. I think every country can do a better job of respecting the rights of migrant workers, but we've never before seen such a concentration of construction. And to be clear, this is at least $220 billion of construction. So it's 8 new stadiums where they previously didn't exist in the desert. It's hundreds of miles of railways, highways, hundreds of new hotels, office towers springing up. So the construction was unprecedented for this World Cup. You can broadly call it infrastructure. And the situation for migrant workers was that they really were desperate to earn money. And once they were there, had no, in some cases, we documented families, the workers begged the sponsors to send them home.
Minky Worden, we want to thank you for being with us. Of course, we're going to continue to cover this story. Minky Worden is Director of Global Initiatives at Human Rights Watch. That does it for our show. Special thanks to Shrutika Kudusani Masood.
And that's Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. And so that right there is just, I just turned it on, bang, and that's like a holocaust of slavery, avarice. Just, build all of that just for a soccer competition. 6,000 people die because it's ridiculously hot there. And so they wanted to build a big infrastructure, right? This was the excuse. You heard highways and trains and a lot of stuff is built just out in the middle of the freaking desert, no little town or anything. And it's just another example of humanity's inhumanity, right? And that comes from the essence of the separation of the ego from love's co-creation. And every day in every way, if we are consciously intent on co-creating with love, that's when things happen. That's when things are amazing. That's when things truly, work out. So anyway, I just wanted to touch base with you guys. So Dr. Eggplant there, he's always going on about, doggy dog, he is a doggy dog, and that was Yo-Yo's real problem. He came from a very affluent family, and they manipulated their children in a transnational kind of monetary sense. And I presently last 3 or 4 years, I've been out here in the deep green, and I just don't spend money I don't have, which makes things, interesting, but more, there's more balance, right? So now I'm going on the wire, on the BOP, and I should still be able to be in a position of not spending stuff I don't have. But I will be mixing amongst more humans than I normally do for the last 3 or 4 years. So it'll be interesting. And I can only say keep abreast of the channel here at Dreamy Dreamland. There'll be more interesting things, interviews and people and interesting places that I will share with you as I travel through the months. And then spring will be here before you know it, and And probably go back to bed. So anyway, it's always good to hear from you. And Mr. Eggplant said something. So when he says something inappropriate, right, and the system, masks, hides it. It shows me, but it does it like it's a black background and it shows it with gray letters, so I can't read it. So, anyway, you guys stay well. So how about some thumbs up? How about some comments? Mr. Eggplant has had the whole conversation here, and anyway, I'll be praying for you. So let's pray. Let's be quiet. Until then, stay well.